Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. This episode of Everyone Loves Guitar is brought to you by Taylor Guitars and their new Grand Pacific Round Shoulder Dreadnought. Powered by Taylor's breakthrough V-Class bracing system, the Grand Pacific gives you a warm, seasoned sound with clear low-end power and notes that are stronger, longer sustaining, and more in tune with each other all the way up the fretboard. Make sure you check it out online at taylorguitars.com, then go out and play one today. That's the new Grand Pacific at taylorguitars.com. Did you know if your instrument or any of your gear is damaged, broken, or stolen outside your home, your homeowner's insurance policy will not cover any of it? That's right. Homeowner's insurance only pays if something happens inside your home. But Music Pro Insurance insures all your music gear, no matter where it is, anywhere in the world, even when you check it in as baggage on an airline. Here, let me give you some examples. Let's say you're in a car accident and your equipment is damaged, you're covered. Your kid pours apple juice into your amplifier, covered. Someone spills beer all over your pedal board at a gig somewhere across the world, boom, you're covered. Any kind of theft or accidental damage is covered, even water damage from hurricanes and breakage from earthquakes. But here's what makes Music Pro really different. They're not going to argue with you over the value of your instrument or make you run around looking for receipts when it comes time to paying your claim. They know exactly why your vintage instrument is worth 10 times more than a new one. Plus, all claims are typically paid and fully settled in 24 to 48 hours. So if your equipment is not insured properly, go to musicproinsurance.com, hit standard, then enter your information and get a free gear protection estimate. Don't be that player who ignores this, and then next month when something happens, you're wondering why you didn't take 10 minutes to do this properly. Make sure you go to musicproinsurance.com, enter your information, and get a free gear protection estimate. If something happens, you will be thanking me. Trust me on this. musicproinsurance.com. The Be Fulfilled Journal helps you be more honest with yourself and with others, and be more open to handling things you've avoided dealing with for years. It's a 12-week online and journal program that helps you identify and eliminate things you do that are causing you stress and live in more gratitude and joy. It was actually developed by a long-term friend of mine who got sober in 2008, and he's put together a great deal just for my listeners. You get the 300-page hardcover journal and access to the 12-week video program online, plus free shipping, plus membership in a private Facebook support group with others going through the program, plus a 5-day mini course showing you how to let go of stuff that's draining your energy, plus a 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. To start your journey and get all the bonuses, go to BeFulfilledJournal.com/ELG. That's BeFulfilledJournal.com/ELG. For information about advertising on Everyone Loves Guitar, including information on geographically targeted ads, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. Got a really great guitar player with me and an interesting guy with a really cool background who's done a lot. We're with Robby Lochner, and he is actually the great, besides from being an amazing guitarist, he's the great grandson, that's how cool he is, of classical composer Robert Schumann. He's a self-taught player who's played, recorded, and toured with many well-known artists. Currently, he's out and recording with Jack Russell's Great White, and he's been with Jack for a while. He's also recorded with Herman Rarebell from the Scorpions, Rob Halford, Alex Ligertwood from Santana, Eddie Money, Spencer Davis, Cherie Curry from the Runaways, George Lynch, Don Dokken, Doogie White from Blackmore's Rainbow, Tony Martin from Black Sabbath, Kenny Aronoff, who's played with everybody, and the Steelheart All-Star Band. He's also worked with and recorded with 4 number-1 hit songwriters, those people being Jake Hooker, who wrote I Love Rock and Roll for Joan Jett, Kurt Cuomo, who wrote Psycho Circus for Kiss, Bobby Kimball, who wrote Africa from Toto, God, man, I wonder what those royalty checks look like.
Yeah,
and and John Parr, who wrote St. Elmo's Fire and Naughty Naughty. And before we get started, I just want to give a thanks to our mutual buddy Bill Leverty for hooking us up. And what was your manager, who went? There was another party involved in this somehow, and I don't know who his name is.
Involved in what?
Involved in connecting us somehow. It was like the manager or somebody, or anyway.
Probably not the manager, because right now the band is self-managed. So I mean, Jack basically manages. I co-manage it with him.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Thanks, Bill. he was.
Yeah, Bill's great. Great guy. A guitar player too. Yeah. I think way underrated.
Amazing guitar player, man. I saw him on a video, and it went from like 0 to 100 in like a second. I was like, wow. I mean, like literally, it was amazing, man. So,
yeah.
Well, Robbie, thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. You said it said in your bio you're self-taught. Did you not study guitar formally at all?
I didn't.
Wow.
I mean, I grew up in Tucson, and at the time when I grew up, it was kind of like anybody who had any level of skill kind of moved away because they were trying to make it. And we were like living in a fishbowl. So the way I learned, my older brother was playing, and he was playing 6 months longer than me. That's it. He was 6 months before. And then after he'd been playing 6 months, he goes, hey, he started me and several of my brothers and some neighborhood friends, handed us a guitar, here, play this. And, and I was the guy who kept playing. Then eventually we ended up playing in a band together with my brother and everything. He doesn't play anymore, but he was like, for me, it was amazing because he could learn songs off of records, and I couldn't back then. I just couldn't. I'm like, how can you do this?
Really?
How do you figure it out,
So how did you become like you then?
Just trial and error. Just playing and playing and playing and playing. And the only way I was able to learn was listening to records, which is a great way to learn. You're listening to the best, right? But it's not the same as having a guy who's got the experience and can tell you, things that you're missing,
Yeah, of course.
It just there wasn't any of that around for me. So the only way I learned was trial and error, just playing, and we'd go out and perform and kind of go back in and try and figure out, what worked and what didn't. And so it was a lot of trial and error, really, A lot of people.
Sorry. Go ahead.
A lot of people ask me about the classical stuff. I do the piano classical style music, and they're like, oh, did you study that somewhere? I'm like, no, it's self-taught. I mean, it's just something I stumbled onto, and it was a friend of mine that was in the band after my brother left, one of my close friends. We had played together as kids, and then we weren't playing together. Then he came back into the band, and he was playing Heart and Soul on piano one day. And
that's funny.
I go, I could do that on guitar. And what are you doing? And then I started doing it, and that was the first thing I did, like in a tapping style. And then the very next thing I jumped into was Sonata in C by Mozart, which is, I still
a little more difficult.
Yeah,
than Heart and Soul.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you so how did you get? How did you learn? For instance, how to play changes, and there had to be some theory component that you, even on your own, had to pick up. No.
Changes?
Like how to play in chord changes. How to solo in different chords and stuff like that.
Oh. The thing we knew, my brother showed me that number one pentatonic. That was the first thing. It was like, okay, I know the number one pentatonic, the thing everybody plays in, right?
Yeah.
And then I sat down and drew out a fretboard on cardboard. And then I took that and I matched all the unison notes on the fretboard and just looked at it and went, and tried to figure out, how many shapes are there? And wow, it's pentatonic. There's 5 shapes. So I went through and learned all the 5 shapes. And that's how I kind of learned to move it around. But it was like, okay, you play this over this chord is what he told me. And that's kind of what I did until listening on records. And when you go, wait a minute, you can take that number 1 shape and it can be a number 5 shape in a major and just shift it. And it's, now it's a major pentatonic. And really just by kind of hearing it on records and going, why are they doing that? How does that work? And just kind of figuring out from what guys were doing on records.
So it's like very old school, man.
Old school. Yeah.
Wow. That's cool, man. Good for you. I cannot imagine the amount of discipline and hours that went into that.
There was a lot. And, in hindsight, if I knew what I knew now, I would go back and I would change the way I practiced. Because I should be a lot better than I am. I could be a lot better, but I mean, there was a lot of wasted hours in the way I practiced and the things I did. But a lot of it was due to just no knowledge and not having somebody, like a Joe Satriani or somebody you could go to who could go, hey, do it like this, do this. Instead, it was, okay, sit around and play. And then it was myself and my brother for quite a while where, I remember when we first heard Mean Street, it was the first time I heard that. My sister had her radio in her room, and I was walking by, and I go, what in the world is that? What is that? And I go, it's got to be Van Halen. And then as soon as it came in, you hear the drum sound and the voice, and you know who it is. Then I was like, okay, we got to learn this. And so I started trying to learn it, and then I get a little bit of it, and then my brother started working at it, and between the both of us, we ended up figuring out how to play it. But it took, a lot of work. I mean, there wasn't, you couldn't go on YouTube and find a guy who or watch Eddie playing or whatever. And then initially, it was the thumb slap thing that was throwing me, and I kept using my first finger hitting the low E and my second finger hitting the high two strings, going back and forth with that, and it just didn't feel quite right. I'm not sure how I stumbled on just use the thumb, slap it, But it was one of those things, and it might have been my brother that did it. I mean, he's the one who figured out the harmonics, how to slap the harmonics.
Really?
Well, that's brilliant. How did he figure it out? I don't know.
That's cool, man.
So we were able to kind of to figure out how to play it.
It's funny you mentioned Satriani because he used to give lessons, and I've interviewed a bunch of guys who actually took lessons from him, like Alex Skolnick. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Yeah. Alex took lessons from Joe, and so did
Kirk Hammett.
Yeah, Kirk Hammett and Charlie Hunter. Do you know Charlie?
No.
Yeah, he's a Bay Area cat, but all these guys took lessons. Could you imagine that, though? Like, you're taking lessons from Joe Satriani?
Oh, yeah. How amazing would that be? I mean, there just wasn't, for me, I didn't know of anything growing up in my area that was anything, there was nobody like that. I mean, well, who's like that in the first place? But just somebody on a higher level, I didn't know anybody. The one guy I knew moved away really early on, and he was, on a higher level than what we were doing, and then he was gone, and I got to meet him, and it was like a big thing, and this guy, Andy Highhouse, oh my God, I met Andy and went and sat down with him, and it's funny now that we're friends, we've been friends for years, but he lives in Corona, and we keep in touch all these years later.
That's funny.
He showed me the licks to A Whole Lot of Love, and that was the thing he showed me, and I was like, wow. And then people start going, yeah, did Andy teach you? It's going, well, he showed me the licks to A Whole Lot of Love, but really the way I learned was my brother and just playing and playing and playing and playing and playing some more.
Yeah, man. Good for you, man. What was your first, what would you consider your first real gig?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, my first band I had in Arizona, we were together for years and years. And before I actually had a national gig. So the first national gig would probably be with Rob Halford, or possibly before that was the Z-Rock Killing Crew. It was a nationally, it was for people who lived in New York and California, they wouldn't have heard of Z-Rock, but it was a radio station back in the 90s. And they were nationally syndicated out of Dallas. And they had a satellite branch in Phoenix. And when the band split that I grew up in, I ended up in that band. Literally the next day they heard I was out of the band, and they called me up and asked if I wanted to join. And there was, the singer was out of Chicago, the drummer was out of Boston, bass player was in Phoenix, and I was out of Tucson. And we all met in Phoenix and had this band, and it was basically kind of a national thing, but we really didn't do much. We played some good gigs, and that was about the extent of it. And then it lasted 6 months. So really, I could say possibly that. I mean, but as far as a gig as in a band gig or a gig as in a show,
your call, man. Whatever you feels right.
I mean, one of my favorite gigs of all time still is with my original band that I had that I started in high school. The band was called Rock Lochner. It was named after
That's
myself and my brother. But, really it was the neighborhood kids who named it that, because we had all these different names. And
Rock Lochner. That's actually really cool, man.
and, the funny thing is people, before that was named that, they were just like, we'd come up with a name and go, oh, we use it for a gig, and that sucked. And then we just didn't have a name. And then all these neighborhood kids would be like, Rob Lochner. I go, no, I don't want to name. And they go, rock, like rock and roll. Then we kind of spelled it ROC without the K. And then people start going, oh, Robbie or Charlie, because my brother Charlie. Robbie or Charlie.
Okay.
Lochner. I go, oh, that kind of works. And we ended up just using that name.
Rock Lochner. That's funny, man.
Yeah, the band got really, really popular. And the biggest gig I had ever done until I played with Halford was a gig we did out in the desert. And it was amazing. It was still one of the highlights.
In Arizona or California?
In Arizona, yeah. I was on the Tanque Verde wash. We built this whole street scene, and we put it behind us, and we were playing through generators. And we had the sound man out in the wash in a truck, and we buried the snake in the sand. And there was about 5,000 people there.
Wow. That's pretty massive for like a local band.
Oh, it was ridiculous. And the police, they broke it up, and they had helicopter above and cop cars at, it was called Tanque Verde Loop Road. And they had a cop cars on one end and cop cars on the other end. And it was a mile long, jam packed with cars.
Holy
and then
smokes.
The whole dirt road going into where we were at, jam packed with cars. And they shut it off and wouldn't let anybody else come in. And they were like, when they finally was all said and done, they were going, what are you guys, like the Rolling Stones? And we're like, no, just kind of lucky.
Just Rock Lochner, man.
It was, yeah, right. But the show was, I'd never felt that high ever before playing. I literally, we were done. I felt high. I was like, oh my God, I'm high from doing this.
Because it was like your hometown and all that energy exchange?
That and just the fact of playing in front of such a big crowd for the first time, it was just amazing. It was like, I need more of that. It was like a drug. I want more of that. That's
wild. When you play out in the, sorry, man, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I was going to say, it didn't happen again playing in front of a crowd that big for years, but we played in front of a lot of big crowds, but not that big. That was still like a highlight gig for me.
That's cool, man. When, it's funny, I just saw a video this morning. It was about Caius, and they were talking about the stoner rock thing and being in California, and they show these guys literally playing in the desert. Like, doesn't your everything get full of sand? Like, isn't your shit trashed?
No, it's not trash, but it sure gets dirty.
Like, how do you get sand out of your amps? That's...
Well, when we played in the desert, we didn't really have that kind of problem because it wasn't like the desert out here. It gets dusty, but we didn't really, because we played out in the desert quite a bit and really pretty big crowds, well over 1,000 people all the time. Not as big as that first one, but it just, I don't remember our equipment getting as dirty as sometimes we'll play gigs, even with Jack. We played some gigs outside that I go, God, my stuff is just filthy.
Yeah. I was just wondering about that. It's a silly question, but I just saw dust all over. Like I said, I'm an East Coast guy. I don't really know what the deserts are like, but I was just watching this video. I was like, holy smokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about, I'm going to name some artists, and if you could talk about how you got the gig initially, and if there's any cool or interesting stories about working with them, just anything. I'm not looking for gossip or anything on them. Just fun or funny stuff, Okay. Let's start with Jack. I'm sure there's no stories with him anyway, right?
No. Initially, the way I met Jack was through Derek Pontier. He was a drummer that played in Great White, and I met him at a NAMM jam. So this guy, Dario Satius, who I had met years before that, and he was a bass player that played in the initial incarnation of Jack Russell's Great White as well as Derek. Well, Dario brought Derek to a NAMM jam with this band I'm playing with called Dig Jelly. And the two of them showed up.
Dig Jelly?
Dig Jelly.
Oh, Dig Jelly. I'm like, wow, you're the master of names, man.
I didn't come up with that name. It was a female singer. She came up with it.
Dig Jelly. That's actually a good name. Yeah.
So they showed up, and I had them sit in, and the three of us played together, and it was like, wow, this is pretty cool. There was like a vibe, and we did a bunch of AC/DC and just, I don't even remember what else we did, just a bunch of stuff. And so then after that, I kept in touch with Derek, and then God, I want to say it was just only a couple months after that, he was like, Jack's looking to do a solo band, his solo band. And he goes, you want to come out and meet him and whatever. And he was living in the desert. So we went out and he introduced me to Jack for the first time. And then it was the following weekend. I went back out and hung out with Jack all day long. On this Saturday, we hung out, and he was really, basically he was a mess. He had been, went through the surgery. Physically, he wasn't doing well, and on top of that, he was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
But so at that point, I thought this is not happening. It's not going anywhere. So whatever, that's fine. It's cool. We met. Well, about 8 months later, Dario calls me up, and he'd been keeping in touch with Jack, and he said, Jack's sobered up. He's doing better. You got to come meet him, and he's living now in Redondo Beach on his boat. So then I meet them out on the boat, and it was interesting. I walk onto the boat, and then Jack looks up because I guess Dario had been talking about me and showing him videos of me and stuff, and he goes, I kind of remember you.
Hey,
like, wow.
You can't fault the guy for being honest, man.
No, not at all. It's like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, right.
And that night he goes, would you like to join Great White? And I was like, what? He goes, I'm firing my band and I'm starting my own version. I was like, okay. I was hesitant. I really was. I don't know what am I getting myself into, Well,
it just seems like you seem like a very easy, a low maintenance guy, and that's like a drama potential situation. So I could totally get that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did say yes, and here we are going on 8 years.
Good, man. Very
so
cool.
It's just that's how it all started with him.
Any cool stories besides the one you just told?
Boy, let me think. I mean, there's got to be a ton of stuff. I mean, there's just so many things. One thing that was really funny, just recently we were traveling, and it was just Jack and I. We were doing some acoustic shows, and we're on Southwest Airlines, and you pick your own seats, right? Mm. And we always like to get up in the front, so we're up in the front, and we leave the seat between us, hoping that it'll stay empty and we can chat, whatever. And so this plane, they always say it's full, and usually it's not. Well, they're people will walk past, and and everybody was past us. The jet doors closed. They're looking for a seat, and I was like, oh no, there's somebody. Looks like somebody's gonna come here.
I know that
Jack
feeling.
Around, puts his hand in. He takes his beanie off, puts his hand in his beanie, and puts it up next to him in the seat between. So the flight attendant, who had thought that there was an empty seat there, comes over and he looks and he goes, and he's confused. Oh, there's somebody sitting in there. We're laughing. We're just cracking up out of control. It was hilarious.
Oh my God.
And I'm looking at him, God, I can't believe you're doing it. And he's laughing really hard and holding his hand there. And it was like, finally they're walking around going, where is that seat? And they come up and they see, and aha, funny.
that is fun. Oh, so they caught you.
They caught us. They had to. I mean, they had to seat the guy somewhere.
Yeah, I hear you, man. You always do that, and you hope someone doesn't sit next to you. I know it's
right, just to have that empty seat.
Yeah, right. Or just have some space, man. There's no space on planes. That's funny if you think about like those guys in the 80s, the stuff they would do then, and now, the stuff that the risky stuff is holding up a hat on a plane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. He'll get more risky than that. He's got that.
No, that's a good thing, man. I mean, you don't need to be doing that shit anymore.
He's still that keeps that raw rock and roll energy.
Yeah, well,
there was another thing that happened with him one time. We were in Dallas playing, and this one just sticks out in my head. It was years ago, but there was this girl that was just into him. I mean, into him. And she got up on the stage, and there was this little catwalk, a small little catwalk, and she gets up on the stage, and he's singing Save Your Love. And she gets her hands behind her, her legs in front of her, and she's got a skirt on, and she's like wanting to show him the business. And he's just having nothing to do with it. He's focused on the singing. He will not look at her. I'm looking at him, looking at her, going, wow, check this out. This is, whoa, look at
Battle
this.
of Wills.
It was funny, and she's just going for it. But then she slipped, and it was actually pretty horrifying. She slipped, and she fell over off the stage, and I could feel her head hit the floor.
Oh, my God.
And it was like, whoa. And she got up just dazed and just beelined it right out there. Probably went right to the hospital. I mean,
holy smokes, man.
But it just stood out as, wow, this is funny at that point. And then all of a sudden it wasn't funny anymore.
Yeah.
It was, oh, my gosh, she probably really hurt herself. I mean,
Man, that's
And
too
all
bad.
because she just wanted to impress Jack in some way, and he just had nothing to do with it. Nope.
Wow.
He didn't even flinch.
That's one of those things. In the night, you say another alcohol-related incident.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
How about Rob Halford?
How I met him was actually through his EMAS, was it Entertainment Management Advisory Service. This guy, Razor Ray DiCarlo, he's from Tucson, as you know, from where I'm from. But we never met until I moved to California. And he was working at that time at KNAC, which is a big radio station out here. And a friend of ours, a mutual friend, introduced us via phone at that time. I hadn't moved out, and he had told me, you know, I'm just like, what can I do? Can you help me? I'm looking for something. I really need something. So he told me to send a demo into his service. And from what I understood,
this guy Razor Ray
DiCarlo said send something into EMAS. He had heard about it. So I sent in this as a cassette of me playing this thing I call Can of Whoop Ass. And then a bio. It's just a bio and pictures, and it was all nicely put together. And I didn't hear anything for probably nearly a year. So I moved out to California, and I was here about 10 months. And then I got a call out of the blue from them. And I thought, wow, this guy, John Baxter, and he's just telling me, we got a band for you. And he wouldn't tell me who. And I thought, well, they place guys in bands. He goes, and you're going to be going on the road in less than a week. And I'm like, well, really? I mean, who is it? What's going on?
That'd be nice.
I got to know some information here, right? And so he didn't really tell me anything. And then he hangs up, and then he calls back, and he goes, okay, I can tell you now. It's Rob Halford. And I was like, oh, you're right. I am going to be, So that's really how it happened. And then he was out of Phoenix, and I was like, wow, I just moved from Tucson. So they flew me into Phoenix. I met with Rob and John, and they just kind of signed me up or whatever, gave me 20 songs. Here you go. Go learn these. And it was like, at that point, Rob was like, you want to go out and, hang out and stuff? And I was going, I'd love to. I got 20 songs I got to learn in 5 days to do it. And I don't have a passport. I need a passport. We're leaving the country.
Oh, wow.
So it was like,
how do you even get a passport in 5 days? Can you do that?
It happened. It happened. Down to the consulate, and I don't know if they pushed it through. I don't remember it, but it went through, and
they probably had to pay. Usually you can get stuff like it costs, though. I think that's probably the deal.
They might have. I don't know. I mean, it took a day away from studying for me. I was like, I need to study this music, but it had to be done. And at that time, my stepdad, my mom were still living in California. My stepdad was a LA sheriff. He was like, I'll go with you.
That's cool.
And it was good because, he kind of had that whatever authority thing.
Sure.
Yeah. And we got it done. And, 5 days I was out on the road.
Wow. So, I met I think, do you know Guy Pratt? He's a bass player from the UK. And I think he was telling me he played with Rob, and he said, Rob's image on stage, at least when he met him, he said it was totally different. Rob showed up in like shorts and like a golfing cap or something like that. And he said he was just like a proper English gentleman, and he said you'd never ever see that guy that hangs out on his free time on stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And, what's that?
I was going to tell you a good story with that too.
Please.
One of my favorite things that happened was we were playing a show. I don't know where, I don't remember, but the very first song is Into the Pit. It's all heavy, and everybody's out there being all metal and tough. And as soon as the song was over, there was the tech that I had taped I guess it was a distortion pedal or something on the side of the amp, and it was acting as a radio transmitter. And as soon as the song was over, Paul Abdul, "Here's a cold heart and say," coming through my amp loud and clear, and mic through the PA, and the whole place went silent. It was like, what? Is this part of the act? And I still remember this because Rob was out in front of the mains, and he comes walking by, and he never as from what I know him, he was always super nice, really cordial, really nice. He gave the look of death to the tech, not to me, but to the tech, like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And this guy was like shaking and like, and he tore it off off the amp, and he did something to make sure that didn't happen again. I don't know, maybe he was pushing the button on and off. I don't remember what it was, but
wow.
But it just cracked me up because I was like, wow, we just got done playing this heavy tune, and all of a sudden Paula Abdul, loud and clear, I mean crystal clear,
That's
and
really
the whole
funny,
thing silent. It was just like looking like, what?
Everybody confused there, man. And then you play with both Dokken and Lynch. Was that together or separate?
No, with George Lynch, that was, and it's funny. We ran into George Lynch at the airport. Me and Jack did about, I don't know, a month ago, and he didn't remember me from playing with him. But we played together. It was just one gig. It was at Mars Music in 2001.
Mars in Tampa?
Mars in Orange County, the block of Orange.
Okay.
They had a stage there, the whole bit. And this guy, Gerard, I guess he goes by Jerry now, knew George, and George was going to do a performance. And he goes, you want to play bass? And I go, sure, I'll play bass. Yeah. So I learned all these songs, and I opened up doing instrumental stuff, and then came back and played bass for him.
Oh, that's really cool.
Very so that was all that was, but we got to play, and and I'd seen him several times after that, and he remembered me. But all these years later, he didn't remember me. It was like when we talked the other day, it was like he was, oh, nice meeting you, and I didn't even bother telling him. We played together. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it doesn't, man. It's good. It's less stress for you to not deal with it.
Yeah,
probably.
Exactly.
And how about with it's with Don?
With Don, we didn't play together. We recorded a song together. That was, what song was that? That Scorpion song with Herman.
Oh, Herman Rarebell.
Yeah, I can't remember what song it is now. But, we were passing files back and forth. So it was basically I worked with him in that light. We recorded. Gotcha. It was cool, too. I mean, it was interesting that he sang everything way lower, but it just had... he knows how to make stuff work, no matter where he placed it, where he wanted to place his voice. I was like, wow, this is interesting. It wasn't what I expected, but I thought it's cool and it was different. Yeah.
Well, because Klaus Meine had a higher voice, sort of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was, a bit of a screamer, and I love his voice, great vocals,
amazing.
Man.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
It's funny, man. Some of the obscure Scorpion stuff is just like the first couple, like Lonesome Crow. I don't know if you know that record.
Yeah.
That's and Fly to the Rainbow. That's some of my favorite stuff. Of course, I like the 80s stuff, but the earlier stuff is more my scene, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. This is an interesting story. I'm sitting down one day, and we had moved, and I found this box, and I guess I used to write down lyrics in notebooks. Imagine that, right? Somebody who likes music. And so I'm sitting at my desk and going through this book of lyrics, and all of a sudden, man, I got chills, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm looking at these lyrics I wrote down when I was 14, and this is 5 years ago. I'm 55 now, so I was 50, and it was Fly to the Rainbow. And that's the song that was playing on my iTunes at that moment.
Oh, wow.
Like, what are the odds that, that was like almost creepy.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Like,
that's cool.
How nutty was that? That I wrote this thing 36 years ago, and I'm looking at it now, and the song's playing. Of the 50 or 60,000 songs on my iTunes. That was very bizarre. So I wish I could have somehow turned that into like good fortune. But I was like, what does this mean? What's the sign? I don't know. It was just like a weird thing. Yeah. In your bio, you mentioned your, ancestor, Robert Schumann. Did you come from a musical family? Like, I know you said your brother played. Did anybody, like mom or dad or anybody else?
No, my grandfather, my mom's side, which is the Italian side, not the German side, he was a jazz piano player, and he actually had a radio show playing jazz piano and stuff. And my mom would sing. I guess she was singing at like 2-3 years of age with him on his radio show. Other than that, there was really nobody played any instruments in our family until my brother picked it up. My mom was taking a college course and she was starting to play guitar, and she brought a guitar into the house. That's how it started.
That's very cool, man. That your mom's taking a college course and brings in home a guitar. That is really cool. You must have had like a very hip mom.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's cool, man.
And so that's how it started, because my brother kind of took the guitar and started playing. And then, he started me and a bunch of other people playing guitar at that point. He was like, yeah, play guitar, come on.
That's nice, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You grew up, you said, in Tucson. What was your childhood like?
What was what?
What was your childhood like growing up?
It was good. I had a great childhood. It was just kind of, we grew up kind of poor. We had a big family. I have 5 brothers, 3 sisters.
Oh my God. So it's not 9 kids.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, no, 2 of them were quite a bit younger, but so at that point they weren't born, but still there's a lot of
that's a lot of kids, man.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And then, it's just, I don't know. I have fond memories of my childhood. It was good. It was good.
That's cool, man. That's amazing. Like I have 3, and it's like way overwhelming. The thought of having 3 times that amount. I mean, like your parents must have been saints, man. Honestly, that's like so much work. Wow.
Yeah.
Do they all live in Tucson still besides you, or is everybody scattered, or?
Most of them do. I have a brother and a sister that are in Phoenix. So that's close. My parents had divorced years ago, and my mom remarried, and my dad had remarried a couple of times. My mom's been married to the same man since 1983, I think is when they got married. But they live in Tucson, but they go between Payson and Tucson. And most of the family, my younger sister and younger brother, are not in Arizona right now, but everybody else is.
Oh, that's good, man. Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm still blown away. 9 kids. Musically, let me go backwards a second. What would you say? Because you've done a lot of different things with a lot of different people. What would be like if you could pick out your top 3 experiences?
Top 3 experiences
for any reason. Could be like you were in the zone, or the vibe, the hang, the arena.
The first, probably the top one still to this day would be the very first show I did with Halford. Just because it was two nights sold out in an indoor soccer arena, which is like, I don't know, it's 5,000 or 6,000 people jam packed in this place. And I had not gotten a rehearsal with the band. It was 5 days, you're flying to, that was in Argentina. And, we show up, no rehearsal. I'd get to do a sound check. I am so nervous. It's like debilitating nervous. I mean, it was just like, I was shaking. I was like, I can play. I know I can play. I think I can play. It was just my first real experience with, anybody named, a hero, somebody I grew up on. Well, before we played, I walk out and I'm still really nervous. I go out and I peek out from behind the curtain and I look out and see this place. And every bit of the nerves went out. It was just like it went drained right out through my feet. I was just like, oh, wow. I mean, the energy just took over. And all I could think of was growing up, all the kids I grew up with, friends, brothers and stuff, going to concerts. And I pictured me being out there, a couple rows back. But now I'm on the other side. I'm here. I'm like, wow, I'm here. Can you believe this? And one of my close friends that we played together, the one I was telling you that replaced my brother, he passed. He was killed in a car accident the year after that happened.
Sorry about that.
It was, it was, really a tough time. But at that point, I felt like, wow, he was there with me. Like, you know what?
That's nice, man.
You did it. You did it. The dream we had as kids to do something, here you are and you're doing it. I was like, wow. And I was just kind of like, the thumbs up, like, yep, we're here, man. Let's go. And it was gone. It was the most amazing feeling, because then I went walking back into the green room. And then all of a sudden, one of the guys in the band goes, so, are you nervous? Nobody said anything before that. And all of a sudden, like, if I was nervous, it would have made it worse. But I was just like, and I go, no. I go, I'm not nervous at all. And the funny thing is, now when we play, I still get nervous when we play. A little bit. Need a little bit of nerves. There's a little bit of edge.
Sure. Yeah.
But that day, it was like there was no nerves. It was the strangest thing. Like something just took over, and it was It was a great experience.
How was your playing that day? I bet you it was amazing, right?
It was actually pretty good. There was a video of that performance. The whole thing was out. One of my students found it about 10 plus years ago. And it was amazing to watch it. I was just waiting. I was trying to hear a mistake. Because I remember that night there was one point where I kind of fell behind the band for a second. And then watching the video wasn't even that noticeable. Everything was right, like I've been playing with the band all along. I thought, wow, that is just really cool. Unfortunately, that video got yanked off of YouTube.
Why? Permission from somebody or something?
Yep, there was 2 lawyers' names on it. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? All the stuff that's out there? I mean, maybe it's back out there now. I don't know. I know there's other stuff that's out there. But there was one in particular, and I'm like, okay, great. This one was one that, the guys were like, you're not being metal enough. Get drunk. And they got me drunk before the show. So I was a little bit sloppy. There's like, drop my pick. And then the drummer was going to me, goes, yeah, you were sloppy tonight. You dropped your pick. And I was going, yeah, gee, thanks. You guys got me drunk. You wanted me to be metal.
You wanted to be metal, drink booze.
Okay, let's do this. I was like, maybe we should do it after the show.
Yeah, that's funny, man. That's
Some
cool.
guys can do it. Some guys can play drunk. I can't. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I've never done anything. I don't play for a living, but I even work. I don't think I've ever worked drunk ever. I can't do it. I like to be sort of present when it comes to work,
right.
Man. Yeah, I just don't want to deal with it. I want to get shit done and then, earn my drink sort of, I feel better enjoying it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So your first show with Halford in Argentina, what else? Top experience.
Let me think. Well, that one show I was telling you about in Arizona, that Tucson show, that was definitely one of my top experiences. That was amazing. It was really good. That would probably be my number 2. Number 3 would probably be, it'd probably have to be some of the shows I've done with Jack. There's quite a few of them that were really, really good. There was one that we played. I mean, we played some really big shows where we're playing with, a bunch of acts of this, 80s acts where you can fill up an arena or whatever, like M3, they fill up 18,000 seat place. Those are always really good. But there was one in particular, we played a place, I think it's called 8 Second Saloon or 9 Second Saloon in Indiana. Something about that show was just really special. It's a 2,000 seat place, and there was probably close to that. It wasn't quite sold out, but it was close. But the people were jam-packed all the way up to the stage, and they had a little catwalk that you could go out on. And people were really fanatical, and the response was fanatical. And something about that evening always stuck out to me as a highlight for me.
Very cool, man. You always, or it seems like you've done most of your playing in like the hard rock, 80s metal sort of genres. Is that what you're attracted to as a player most? Or like, have you been turned on, or does other genres you like to play?
Oh, I love playing all kinds of stuff. I mean, I love doing country. I love to do country. And a lot of people like country, but I mean, some of the guitar playing is just amazing. Brad Paisley. I mean, come on, So there's just a lot of great musicians. I love a lot of the songs are really good. The production is great. The mixing is great. Love country stuff. I would love to do country, metal, sure, rock, blues, whatever. If it's good, I like it. I like to play it. Anybody
listening wants to get Robbie on country, get a hold of him, man. He's out
great.
For it, man. Yeah,
I'm totally up for it. Until he's ready.
Those guys are great players, man. I've interviewed tons of them.
Great, and it just seems like they have so much fun. I mean, there's some of these guys, some of the new country guys I'm watching. I go, basically, it's almost like the 80s acts, almost, that the performance is, high level performing. And, there's one band, I think it was Jason Aldean, because I just started watching these videos, live videos. And I think it was him, and they had the stage that had like catwalks out like 5 different angles. I go, man, is that the coolest thing? These guys are just entertaining.
Yeah.
So it's so much fun to be able to not only play, but to entertain your audience. It's so much of the fun.
Yeah, that's a big part of modern country now.
It is. So. I mean, there's a little bit of twang, and there's getting to be less and less twang in it.
Which, of course, the old purists are like, not, that they're like, oh, there's getting to be less and less twang. There's always two sides of the opinions.
There is, but it's that modern country is great. I mean, I love it.
Hey, what were some of the bigger surprises for you initially when you first started playing about the business end of being a professional musician?
The business end? Just, you know what, how cutthroat a lot of people are. I mean, there's a lot of people who are, I hate to say that because I don't like putting it out there, but I see a lot of people who are, I don't know if the word phony is right, but they will sell, they'll sell you up. They'll roll you under the bus first chance they get. I mean, just if it means saving them or getting them into a higher position, there's a serious lack of integrity in a lot of people.
I've heard
and that really bothers me. And I've seen it quite a bit. I don't even want to I won't bring up any names because that's not cool, but I know I was working with an artist, a big artist back in the 90s, and he was recording, and he would walk out of the room and people were making fun of him and just talking like, just not really cool. And then he'd walk back in the room and they would sit there and kiss his ass. And I would just look at him and go, man, most two-faced,
yeah, that's not cool,
disgusting. I just couldn't stand it. I was going, this is not for me. These kind of people are not for me. And I know there's a lot of good people out there, so not to put out that there aren't, but that is not for me. I want somebody I like working with people who have integrity.
Yeah.
If they're working with an artist who, he's the boss, but he does something that is not really up to, like with Jack, I could tell Jack, that wasn't cool. Don't do that. And he's not going to, fire me. Maybe he would, but he hasn't yet. I'll tell him and he's okay with, hey, okay, maybe you're right. Or, he doesn't agree with me, whatever, at least I can tell him.
Sure.
I don't want to be able to not tell somebody, hey, that what you're doing isn't correct. Or, if people are just talking smack about him, I'm not going to go, I don't go rat on them. I just look at them and go, wow, just think when I walk out of the room, what's happening,
Yeah.
Same thing. You just know it, you just know it. It was really a bummer to see that. That part of the business really bothered me.
Interesting. I don't know where I read this, but it was just last week somewhere on some forum. For the life of me, I don't know where because I don't really pay a lot of attention. But some guy was like publicity dude, and he had a client, and they needed another manager, and so he recommended somebody to them that he didn't really know very well. But he says, "I don't know this guy well, but I think he'd be a good fit for you." So they meet with this person through this guy's recommendation, hire him as manager. And the first thing he said is, you need to get rid of your publicity person.
Oh my God. Wow.
And I read that. I was like, wow, that is like disgusting, man. That is like absolutely gross, man. Like you talk about lack of integrity and like
that's it right there in the nutshell. I mean, that is just that's exactly what I've seen come in. The guy, it's almost like a power trip. Well, let's see, you got to get rid of it. It happened with us in that same situation. The band I was working with, they come in and we go, you got to get rid of the drummer. I was like, oh man, what? You got to be kidding me. You had to get rid of the drummer if you're going to work with him. We did it. It was a shame that we did it. And then later on, we're auditioning drummers, and I go, that guy wasn't that bad. I'm going, son of a, are you kidding me?
Wow.
And I'm friends with this guy. So we ended up playing in a band after that with the drummer.
That's good.
They had a band, and I ended up playing with him. And I was like, man, I just felt horrible. It's like, it's just, you know what? He's good enough. If there's a problem, let's work with him. But we were kind of like, oh, we're working with these guys who are, going to help us, and they're bigger than us, and what can we do right now? But it ended up that it was just not good.
That's unfortunate. And a lot of times, like I see people throwing around credentials that they got, but as well as I do, a credential is not necessarily indicative of talent at times. Sometimes it's right place, right time.
Yeah, that's right.
I see people throwing that stuff around, and other people buy onto that, and then it's like they got a sales job, and it wasn't really, you don't really know somebody, but you see the flag, the gold star that they got, and you think, oh well, then they must be good. That's kind of
that's a shame because that happens a lot, and it's,
yeah.
you know, a lot of it's the right fit. I mean, I've had it happen to me. I was in a situation, I won't tell you who it was, as a national act. I mean, I don't want to be, but I'll just tell you what had happened. They brought in somebody else who had a name, and immediately walks in, and it was funny because then I got a call from the artist the next day, and I knew, because when I met them, I went, this guy is going to roll me under the bus first chance they get. I didn't think it would happen so fast.
You just had a vibe. You just had a.
I knew right away. Right when we met, I went, wow, they wouldn't even, you could just tell they were above you. You know, they had that I'm above you kind of thing, and they barely wouldn't even talk with me. I was like, to ask them something, they would look the other way, and I'm like, wow, real cool. So the next day I get the call, and I said, you don't even have to tell me. I go, I already know. And they go, well, you know, the what was it, the track record this guy has is, I go, whatever, and he's used to working with pros. I go, oh, so I'm not a pro now?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, you know, bringing all this BS. It was all bullshit. And I was like, you know, really? I go, you don't have to, you know, it's bullshit. I mean, in that whole situation, nothing ever happened for it. It fell apart, and I moved on to better things anyhow. But I was just like, wow, this is really disappointing that, you know, people will be that way. They'll wouldn't even give me a shot. They're like, well, you know, he's used to working with pros. I go, well, you know, wouldn't it be good if you heard me play first to decide whether I was a pro, you know?
So what do you do? Like, you're you could see you're like a very easygoing guy. Like you appear very non-confrontational and like very adaptable. What do you do in a situation like that where, you know, like how do you personally handle a situation where you don't make it, you know, it sounds like you did a good job, like that you knew from the beginning, this is not about me, this is about them.
Yeah.
So how do you like, for people maybe listening, how do you
Well, you know what I should
that?
have done? I probably didn't handle it exactly like I should have. What I did do, and it wasn't bad.
Should have fucked him up. No.
Yeah. That's what I should have done. No, what I said was the last thing I said, because what happened then was like, well, they go, well, you deserve an audition. I was like, I've already been playing with you. Now I'm going to audition? Really? Okay. I go, I know how this is going to go. And so I went and did the audition, which was a joke, and I knew it was a joke because when I went in, it was just like you could feel it. You know, you feel everybody's vibe as they come in. I show up early. I bring my own amp. This guy brought in his own guy, brought an amp from him. He was surprised that I brought an amp into the rehearsal place. Like, wow. And the guy he brought in played well. It was fine. I mean, they didn't know the songs. I went in and I knew those songs like dead on. I mean, I was like, oh, no. It didn't matter, and I knew it didn't matter. So after I played, and it was just kind of like, you know what, a funny part of it was I told him, I go, you know, this isn't my first rodeo. I have played with a few people, and then I hate doing that, but I did mention a few people I played with, and he was like, oh, and he got a little nervous, a little flustered, like, well, I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with, and he just started kind of backpedaling. I'm going, whatever. And I shouldn't have gone there because, you know, I know better, and that's just not me to do that, right?
Oh, you mean you should have gone to the audition period?
What? No, I wanted to go because I wanted to do it. I wanted to go through that. I needed to go through that. And then when I was done, I sat down, and there was like these little bleachers in this place, and I sat down, and then I watched them play, and then I watched how they were and everything. Then it was done, and I sat there, and I wouldn't leave because I made it awkward for them. I just sat there, and I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. And then like, oh, yeah, there's the elephant in the room. And so then they call me out into the hallway, and I go, yeah, I already know what's going to happen. And what I probably shouldn't have done, and it's not that big of a deal in hindsight, but I probably should have said thank you for the opportunity and left and been nice about it. Instead, I said, you'll see me around.
You know what, man? That was degrees of loss only, no matter what you did. So like, it really wouldn't have mattered anything you said or did. It was like, I'm surprised you went to the audition knowing that it was, you know, but then if you don't go, you make it too easy for them to say, man, the guy didn't even show up.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, it was so stacked. Like no matter what decision you're going to make, there's going to be wrong.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to do this because I just need to do it. I need to put myself through it.
Yeah.
And the whole audition was really about, this guy's a drummer, right? So it was all about the drummer. He gets in there and he mics his kit and he's all loud through the side fills and it's like, oh yeah, it's all about him. And they're like, oh wow, amazing. I'm like, man, he was dragging everything. He didn't know the arrangement. I actually called him out on the arrangement on one of the songs. I go, dude, that's not how it goes.
Oh,
He's the musical director. It's like, well, you're supposed to know this stuff, right? I was like, come on, come in and know it. If I have to come in and know it,
yeah, totally
you
get.
should come and know it. I mean, of course, I had the advantage of having played some of the music, not all of it, that they had put in the audition, but whatever.
Yeah, man, that's things that you got to have to deal with that stuff sometimes. Seems like you take it pretty good though. Like I said, you don't make it. You knew it wasn't about you, and that's, I think, best way to handle.
I did know it wasn't about me, but I was disappointed with it. I thought, wow, this is a disappointment. I mean, it's just, and it wasn't even a big deal because the gig was nothing. But it was more about, I thought that there was a friendship and there was something there with the artist that wasn't there. Clearly, it was not.
That's disappointing.
And they immediately were willing to just throw me away when it came to, they thought that something else bigger would happen. And you know what? I guess I'm guilty of it myself because I did that with that drummer. So sometimes shit comes around. And it was, you know what I mean? It's kind of like I shouldn't have allowed them to fire that drummer at the time because I knew better. But you learn. All you can do is you can learn from what you do.
And I think everybody has. Obviously, if you've lived, you had your regrets of shit you did that you wish you didn't have to do. But I think you just do the best you can at any given point in time.
That's right.
I mean, I know even with my kids, I've like apologized to them for things I think I could have done better 10 years later as a hopefully smarter, wiser, more experienced dad, and they're like good with it, but like if it feels weighs heavier on, not bad stuff, but like, we should have done more of this. We should have had more fun doing that and blah, 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 but it tends to, I think it tends to weigh heavier on the individual than, others kind of sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I mean, it's just a matter of making, right choices in the moment. Sometimes it's hard to do. And it's really, I guess you got to think like, what am I doing? For me, I try and think, what am I doing karmically? If you really believe in that, it's like, am I doing stuff that's, is this for the highest good of myself and everyone concerned?
Yeah.
It's good. If it's not, if I'm doing something that's harming somebody else, then, I shouldn't be doing it and I should know better.
I think that I wish I didn't start thinking like that so much later in life. Because I think that is a very, I think it's important to make decisions that are karmically correct for you because there's no there's so much less of a downside. I think that's a really smart thing.
Yeah, it really is, because even if you think, wow, I'm advancing myself in this way or that way, yeah, you know what? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because you can think, oh, I'm playing in a bigger act, if that's what you're thinking, or you're whatever it is, you're getting more prestige. Are you really? Does it really matter? I mean, 100 years from now, does it matter? Does anybody really care? I mean, what really matters is the way you treated people, how you are to other people, how, what you did. I mean, I find, especially as more time goes on, the more I can do for other people, the better I feel about myself.
Yeah, sure. Totally. I get that.
If I'm doing stuff for myself, it's, it's just it's hollow. It's always hollow. And you'll get things they will come to you by, helping others. I mean, that's kind of just my thought is that if you help others, and it's just little things. We get on an airplane and I see somebody who needs help with their suitcase. I'll jump up fast and help.
Yeah.
Just the little things. It's like, I don't want anything in return. I just want to be able to help you because it makes me feel better.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
So I'm helping myself. You know?
It's almost selfish in a way, but it makes you feel good. Not selfish, but because selfish sounds like at someone's expense. But yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good way to make decisions. I really try hard to make decisions like that now. I wasn't smart enough as a younger person. I'm really glad I am now. It just feels better, man, all around, and less stress, much less stress.
Yeah, much less stress. Yeah.
Let's talk about gear for a little bit.
Okay.
And do you still practice?
I do.
What's the last thing you practice? Like, what are you working on now? Like when you're practicing?
All kinds of stuff. Everything I can. I mean, like this morning I was playing, about maybe up to about 30 minutes before we started talking. I was playing Sonata in C, Mozart, that one piece.
That same piece. You never got off that piece, Robbie.
No, I'm still like, I feel
That's
like
so
I
cool.
can play it pretty well sometimes, but sometimes I feel like it's just not totally under my fingers. And the only way I'm going to get it there is if I just keep doing it.
That's really cool, man.
So that Prelude in B flat by Bach, it's the same way. It's like, sometimes I get it to sound really cool, but it doesn't feel like it's totally under my fingers. I'll play it through and go, that was good. Play it again. Oops, now I'm not quite,
Yeah.
So it's like the only way to get it there is the way I learned, like even doing a pentatonic or something basic that I have under my fingers and I feel it and it's simple and it goes, okay, that's easy. It's simple. So now something that's way more difficult, how else can I get it there but by repeating it until it's there, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of following the way I've always done stuff. I'm really out. I'm always wanting to work on something because my playing could just be so much better than it is. And I feel like as long as it can be better and I still have the drive to want to improve, then why not?
That's really cool, man. What guitar wise, what is your like go-to and what other few guitars would round out your top 3 or 4?
I don't think I really have a go-to. It just kind of like depends on the situation to what I might use, especially when I'm in the studio. I mean, I'll have, I might grab the Paul and try it and, that's not working. And, there's another Paul, try that. Or I have a couple of Tellys, I'll try those and maybe that's not working. Or I have this Burrell guitar, maybe that'll work. I have these Gelvin guitars that Gelvin made. I'll try it until I go, oh, that one sounds right. You just don't really know. If I'm tracking one song and it sounds great and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to go into the next song and use the same guitar. And all of a sudden I'm going, why doesn't it sound? I'm in the same setting, same everything. It's not working.
So let's talk forget about what you need, just the ones you like. Like the ones, forget about the sound you need, just like pure raw, like, man, this one is my baby, kind of thing.
I really like the Baker guitar I have for playing the classical music. It just works the best for doing it. Like when I'm doing the tapping stuff and especially up high on that particular one on the 24th fret, when I hit the 24th fret, it comes out and it sounds nice. On all the other guitars, I really have to hit it a little extra harder to get it to work.
Baker? I've never heard of that. Are they like a boutique maker or?
Yeah, out of Vegas.
Interesting. Baker?
Yep. They've been around.
Check them out. Very cool.
I really like that one for the classical stuff.
What does that look like?
I could grab it and show it to you.
Yeah, man. Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, man. I need to have mood music now for when my guests grab their guitars. We're working on that for the rest of 2019. Here he comes. Oh, man.
Can you see it there?
Man, that's really pretty. Okay, so let me describe this. So wow. Okay, so then is that an ebony neck?
No,
ebony
it's rosewood.
Rosewood. Okay, so it's a rosewood fretboard. What is that shape? It's kind of like it's sort of Strat-ish shape.
It's almost SG-ish esque too.
Yeah, right. And it's got 2 humbuckers.
Yep.
Really nice color, a ocean blue maybe or something.
Yeah, almost kind of a green. Really
pretty, man. It's got nice binding around it. Really nice guitar. Very cool. So that's when you used to play classical. What else?
I love playing the classical on that. It doesn't really work for a lot of other stuff, so I love playing my Paisley Telly. I really like that one a lot. And I like it for some of the classical stuff, but with the 21 frets, sometimes I need those extra frets for certain things that I do. So it kind of like, I can't go there,
Is that a regular Fender Telly?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the JB Telly. I love that one. Then I have a regular Pro Shop one, like the blonde one, which is heavier. Doesn't play as well. But they sound great. Doing country stuff. Actually, that's it's a Paisley, the one that I really like. I've used that at gigs for playing rock, and I'm going to probably start using it again with Jack. I'm going to start using it. I just got to get the neck fixed. It's still there's an issue with the neck. Guys
that like Tellys, they use it for everything, man. Nobody likes a Telly. They either really just like love it or hate it. Sort of seems like, and the guys that like it love it.
Yeah, I really like mine a lot. I mean, there's some tellies I don't care for a whole lot. They don't play well. This one plays well, so I'm like, this is just a great guitar.
Awesome.
But I mean, I also like playing a Les Paul. The thing with the Les Paul though is that for performing with it is pretty heavy on the shoulder.
Oh, you got an older one.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are heavy, man. Those
yeah.
are heavy. What year is your Les Paul? What kind of?
It's the 77.
Black burst.
No,
Yeah, man. So now we need the guitar mood music again.
This thing is heavy. I don't know how much it's got to be.
Oh my,
30 pounds.
30 pounds. So
I mean, it's heavy. I can lift weights with it. Seriously.
Okay, so is that?
It's a standard.
It's a standard, but is that the sunburst or is it faded or is it wood? I can't tell.
It looks the same as it did. It's kind of a wood blonde.
Yeah, it looks really cool, man. But that's a heavy one, man.
It's really heavy, and my brother actually bought this guitar. It's only been one owner, really. I mean, between my brother and myself.
That's very cool. Since 76, 77.
Yeah, he picked it up in 77, so
that's 42 years old.
Brand new guitar. I mean,
wow, that's amazing, man. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Holy smokes, man. 42-year-old guitar. That is really cool. That's been yours since that's very cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, it was my brother's, and now, I mean, I kind of inherited it since, he doesn't play anymore. So I'm like, well, somebody might as well put some use to it.
Oh, it's cool looking, man. Any players that influence your playing that people would be surprised to hear?
Probably not. I mean, anything that I like, if I hear somebody, I hear a lot of players that go, I like it, but there's players that go, oh, I got to learn that. I think it probably wouldn't be a surprise that, Van Halen influenced me.
Sure.
You can hear that. Eric Johnson, I don't think that's a surprise. Brad Paisley has been more of an influence in the last 10 years, but it probably doesn't show a whole lot with what I'm doing.
The genre is different, so yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. What's the best guitar and best amp you've ever owned or played?
Oh man, it's kind of the same thing. They're all so different for different things that I can't even really say. I mean, I have these amps that are sitting here, or you can't see them. Well, if I turn them here, they're on the floor here.
Yeah, EVH and a Marshall.
EVH looks like. And the 50 watt at 800 JCM 800. That they're and I run the speaker wire into the other room. I have an isolation room, and and I can dial everything in. Those ones I mostly use that, or maybe a Fender. I mean, I love playing through Fenders.
Yeah,
but it just depends on what I'm doing for what I need. So,
gotcha.
It's nice to have just different things for different things.
Oh hell yeah, man! You ever sell a guitar you wish you can get back?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
It's the lawsuit, Ibanez Les Paul.
Really? What happened? How come you sold it?
I was stupid. I was a kid, and it was my first guitar, and my brother had owned it before me. Then he got this Les Paul, and then he gave me that guitar as a Christmas gift. It was sunburst, beautiful guitar. It was chambered, so it was lighter, but it played great and it sounded great. But being a dumb kid, I didn't know. I just eventually I was like, I need to have a real Les Paul. I kept telling myself I had to have a real Les Paul. So eventually I went and I traded it in basically and got a Les Paul Pro that I hated the guitar, never played good, sounded as good. And I had that thing for probably a year, and I just regretted it. It's like, my God, why did I get rid of that Ibanez? Because the Ibanez, it was a beautiful looking guitar, and it played amazing. Just everything about it was great. I still had it. So then I ended up, those are the only two guitars I ever really got rid of. Because then I got rid of the Pro, and then I got one of the first, the F100, what do you call it? That's the guitar I was playing on this morning. The one that Fender went to after he left Fender, G&L.
G&L, yeah. How do you like those?
I like it.
Yeah.
I do like it.
I have never heard anybody say they don't like it.
Yeah, I like that guitar. So that was the first guitar that the guitar I've owned the longest, even though this Les Paul's been in the family longer, that G&L was the one that I initially got after getting rid of the Ibanez and getting rid of the Les Paul Pro. I got the G&L, and then I was like, okay, no more getting rid of guitars. They just collect them, just build them up.
Do you remember the first CD or record you purchased?
The first record I purchased, I don't remember, but I remember the first record I got, and I think I got it for Christmas, which was Deep Purple. I got a Machine Head.
Oh, what a great record, man.
Yeah. And then Burn would have been the second one I got.
Yeah. Same way. I love the old Purple stuff, man. It's just killer, man.
Yep. It's awesome. Yeah.
Desert Island Discs. No particular order, just knee-jerk reaction.
Well, I would probably go with, you need a vulgar display, power. You got to have your aggressive stuff in there. And I'd probably go with Machine Head. I'd probably go with Nazareth. Loud and Proud? Loud and Proud is a great record. And then probably Fogerty. Any of the Fogerty stuff.
Interesting.
You're easier. I love Fogerty stuff, like A Sunny Afternoon,
That's cool, man. What a variety there, man.
Yeah.
Very cool. You a rule breaker or a rule follower?
I would have to say both. It just depends.
Yeah.
There's times I'll follow the rules, and then there's times you just got to break them.
Yeah, man. For sure. What is some of the most important things that you've learned about yourself through your journey through life so far, man?
I think it's, through music and doing everything, I think what that has taught me, because that's been what the journey is really just, on how to try and treat people, that, and I don't mean people in the music business, but that's part of it. But I mean, I meet people all the time, but it's just people in general that everybody deserves respect for being a human until they don't anymore. I don't believe in the whole, you got to earn my respect. Forget that. You get the respect. I start with the respect because just the fact that you're a human, everybody deserves the respect. Then you can lose the respect by being, a jerk or whatever the case would be. But just really just by, I think, it's really taught me is just in treating people, how you treat people.
I agree with you on that, man. I used to have that mindset of you got to earn my respect, and I realized it was really like stupid. And like, like, who the hell am I? I want, like, who the hell am I to, why do I think someone has to prove something? I had to do all my own issues, I had nothing to do with anybody else, and then I like flipped and I did it the other way. I'm like, man, this is a lot easier, It's a lot nicer. It's a lot less stressful.
Exactly. Everybody just deserves to be treated kindly.
Yes.
Everybody deserves that. And there's, it's an interesting thing about that. I've noticed, especially in the music business, that some people, you treat them kindly and they really gravitate to it. You compliment them and they really like it. And I found other people that you compliment them and they turn like all of a sudden they get this like, I'm better than you are attitude. I've had quite a few people do that.
Interesting. All
of a sudden they're like, yeah, I am great, aren't I? I had one guy tell me, I was like, oh, and I'm a bass player. And I told him, good show. And I'd seen him with this other act he played with. And then he just really kind of turned and he barely wouldn't even look at me anymore. And then they were getting ready to play.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, totally. And I swear to you, he told me, he goes, well, now I'm going to go put on my Superman cape and perform. And I was just like, wow. I go, what a freaking tool.
Wow. It sounds like someone believes their own bullshit, man.
Oh, yeah.
Sipping his own Kool-Aid there, man.
Full of himself. And it's funny because this was a year ago and then we just did that cruise and I'm not going to say who it was, but this guy was on the cruise. And when I saw him, I was just like, you know what? You lost my respect. So I didn't want to talk to him when I would see him. I was just like, I'm going the other way. I don't need to deal with that,
She said, hey, man, did you bring your cape on the cruise?
I almost said, I was so close to saying, you know what? I got my Batman cape. How's your Superman cape?
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Nah, just let him go off and be Mr. Superstar that he is. It's like, okay.
It's so crazy because like in any situation, no matter how good you are, there's 20 guys lined up right behind you that can smoke you. I mean, no matter how good it's like going to the gym and thinking I'll be the strongest guy there or the richest. I mean, like, what? Totally. I don't get any of that, man.
No, exactly. I mean, and it's so individual, and that's what's the beauty of it. And really, I think for me, that helped me the most when I moved from Tucson to California. What really helped me the most was that I just thought, I'm going to be myself, because nobody can be better at being me than me.
Yeah.
Anybody can be better at, they could do the scale better, this arpeggio better, whatever it is. There's, like you said, there's 100 guys lined up.
Yeah.
But if you're just yourself, you know what? There'll be people who will like you and there'll be people who won't. And there's nothing you can do about it. If somebody doesn't like me because they don't like the way I look or the way I play or just whatever thing that they've got going, that's not my problem. I'm just going to be who I am. And there's going to be people who are going to like me and there's going to be people who aren't. And you just accept that, Man, it's funny you said that. I interviewed a guy in Canada. His name is Ben Yardley. He plays a great guitar player for a stoner rock band, more like psychedelic rock called La Chinga. And, he's been sober quite some time now. And he was talking about getting sober. And he one of the things that helped him was he realized, he said, what other people think of me is none of my business. Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, man, that's really
good.
Yeah, right. It's, but there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of, I'm not a guy who got sober. Thank God I never had that problem, but there's a lot of, I'm very familiar with the programs. There's a lot of wisdom in there that's like practical application that I don't think you need to be an addict to like get hip to like wisdom wherever it comes from, And
that's true. That's correct too.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's hard though. It's like, oh yeah, you want people to like you, but it's like, you know what? God, at some point you got to give up on it and not even try. It's just like, you know what? I'm going to treat people with respect. I'm going to be kind with people. And if they're likewise, that's great. And if they're not, you know what? Whatever.
Their problem, not mine. Yeah.
It is their problem because, we all live, we all die. And guess what? You know what? The imprint you leave is the only thing that's left. And what is your imprint going to be? Is it going to be one of positivity or is it going to be one of being an asshole?
I hear you, man. I'm smelling Robby Lochner Guru. Self-help guru. Best childhood memory.
Best childhood memory. Ooh, boy. Ooh. I was a little delinquent. We used to do some crazy, stupid stuff. So, oh, man. That's so hard to say, and it depends on what age range you're talking to. I mean, when I think of, early high school years, I would think of that's when it became about music a lot, and that memory, the feeling of that time was amazing because everything was like you go to a concert, it was an event. Yeah. It was an event. It was a big deal to go to, and it was just like you would talk about it for weeks, and it feels like now, and and it may be that way, and sometimes I guess it is that way, but not as much. It seems the whole culture was that way then.
I think you have less responsibilities when you're younger, so it's easier to consume yourself with the concert you're going to in 4 weeks, and then you're with 5 other guys who have no responsibility, and that I think as an adult, because I often think about that, and I'm like, man, I wish I had the time to sit and think about what I'm doing, right? Next weekend, this weekend even, that I could spend more time of it and like just sit down and get excited about it. I'm going somewhere with my wife or going to a concert with my son or going to a ball game with my other son. Something, I don't have the bandwidth available. Unfortunately,
the attention span for things nowadays is so immediate and there's so much entertainment. It's different. But I'll tell you, there's an experience going on to the boat this was interesting for me because, we all got together, the whole band, we had our wives, my wife, my daughter, the other guys had their girlfriends or wives with them. And we're getting onto the boat and we're walking through these hallways going there, and we're all kind of following each other at a little bit of a distance. And I'm with my wife and my daughter. My daughter goes, "This is really exciting." I go,
that's
what?
Cool.
It is. And I was going, it was weird because I hadn't felt that kind of excitement in years. And I was going, it is. It's exciting. We're all going on there. All the artists are meeting in one area. And it was just something about it. Here
that's
she
nice,
is,
man.
and she was going, it's exciting just going onto the boat. She's probably thinking going to see the room. Well, I was too. I mean, it was just the whole thing was exciting. And I haven't really felt that in that kind of excitement in a long time. It was
That's
cool.
That is really cool. I think you have to, I know me, like I am always, my mind is always occupied. I think that's I'm glad you just told me that, because I need to like be more geared up for excitement and less geared up for other stuff that's in my mind that is really not necessarily not exciting. It's not exciting. It's just stuff I got to do, and your daughter was thinking about, she don't have anything to do. She's thinking about having fun.
Yeah. I think it's turning that off. And that's what I think I'm getting better at that. And sometimes it's hard, but it's turning off all the chatter, because it's like, you know what, you're here. And the best thing you can do in your life, and this is, the Rob Lochner guru thing. No, I'm just kidding. But is be here in the now, because,
totally.
That's all you have.
Yeah. That's all.
So if you're here, I notice a difference when I'm able to focus on it. And then I start to drift and I'm thinking about, I got to do this, or maybe I should EQ this song different. I start thinking about music, or maybe I should be playing this lick, or, how about if I write, what I mean? Or it could be, I got to go to the grocery store, whatever it is, or I got to trim my trees in the backyard. I start thinking about that stuff. It's going, what, forget about that. What am I doing here right now?
You got to talk to yourself to do that. I mean, I do anyway. You have to really be.
I do too. I was like, you know what? Shut up. Stop. Stop the chatter.
Stop the chatter. Yeah.
Get focused on where you're at, what you're doing, because that's what your life is moment to moment, right?
That's
you miss your life if you don't focus on it. You do.
Yeah. What did John Lennon say? Life is what happens when something, he said something about life is what's passing you by right now. Something along those lines of what you just said, and it's very true. What's one thing nice, like when I do these interviews, man, I'm engaged. I can't rightly have a conversation with someone and be like, thinking about something else. And it's good. It gets me in the habit of doing that. And when I play guitar, I'm engaged. And I need to stay in that state, man. I need to Tony. What's his name? With Guru.
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, Tony Robbins. He's always talking about state. Anyway, we're getting way off topic.
It's good.
Best thing, this is a really broad question. You answer whatever you want. Best thing that's ever happened to you?
Oh, my daughter.
That's really nice, man. I hope you play this for
her. She already knows.
That's really sweet, man.
I tell her all the time.
But she's only 10. Wait, man, like 3 years. Right. I want to come back with you in 3 years and play that. If you can still say,
like, you know what? I think that I feel like, as long as I keep showing her and telling her how much I love her and I'm there for her all the time, that, we'll be okay.
That's cool, man.
We'll be okay. And I tell her all the time, and I'll tell her, I'll straight up tell her, have I told you how much I love you today?
Yeah. Right.
And if she goes, yeah, you told me earlier. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Yeah. Or if I didn't, she'll tell me, no, you didn't. I go, well,
Yeah.
So
that's cool, man.
It's just a constant reminder and setting a bar. I want to set a bar really high, because a daughter's first love is kind of, strangely, but not really, that their dad. They look at it a certain way.
Yeah.
So if I set a bar really high, some guy isn't going to come around and go, yeah, I love you, and she'll be like, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Man, that was a big priority of mine. With when I was raising my daughter, and like, even like one thing this is like way off topic, but I read this thing. I didn't really have a good childhood, so I had to like read, I wanted to be a better dad than my role model. So I had to read books. And one of the things they said, and it was really interesting, they said, if you have a young child and a lot of times you want to give a kid a hug or a kiss and they don't want to. They said, give them that space, especially girls, because you're basically, if you're not allowing them to set their own boundaries and they can't set it with you, then how the hell are they going to set it with somebody else? And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, again, incidental stuff, but I found little stuff like that helpful, because
yeah. I mean, so far that's never happened. I always tell her, come on, give dad a kiss. And she's always like, every day I go, you got to give me a kiss every day. And when I'm gone, you owe me. I go, when I get 5 kisses. Good
for you, man. I hope that always sticks.
With it.
Very cool. I hope that always stays like that, man.
That's what I hope too. And so far, so good. And, and tonight we're going to the father-daughter dance, and she's all excited. So I'm excited we get to go. She says it's one of her favorite times of the year, father-daughter.
That is really cool, man. Good for you. Any hobbies outside of music?
I love gardening.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah, I got a garden. I got grapevines, raspberries, peach trees. I'll grow tomatoes, whatever,
Good you're not in Tucson.
Right.
Yeah, it's all desert there, isn't it?
Well, I mean, in Tucson, I could grow tomatoes and stuff.
Oh, you could?
Very cool. You could. There's certain things you could grow, certain things you couldn't. There's things I can't grow here. I tried growing blueberries, and blueberries just won't survive here. It's not cold enough.
In California? Okay, all right, that's it.
Yeah, it just won't. But everything else, I mean, I really like growing. That's a cool hobby.
That is cool. Relaxing. Man, talk about a specific experience that changed your life or altered the way you think about things.
Well, I mean, for sure, when my daughter was born, that changed my life. Absolutely. The second she came out, the second I saw her, my life completely changed. That would probably be the biggest change in my life would be that.
Really? That's cool, man. That's really nice.
And that's not dissing, my wife or my son. My son is my stepson, so I wasn't there when he was born.
Sure.
I actually met my wife because of him. He came into a music store that I was teaching at.
That's wild.
Yeah, they were looking for a metronome. He had a guitar teacher already, and it was just a coincidence. They came in on a Saturday, and I just happened to have a half-hour break, and walked out into the store, and they walked in just at that moment. And then I started helping them.
How wild is that?
Yeah. And then she's looking and going, who's this man talking to my kid? And then I was just like, we started chatting a little bit. And then he was talking about, I was like, what are you learning? And then he was like, yeah, I'm hoping to learn Smoke on the Water. And he was like, what do you mean? You haven't learned it yet? I go, that's supposed to be the first song. It could be. And he goes, well, my teacher says, I'm not ready for that yet. And I go, oh, no. And so they came in later on. I had an opening. They came in and did a lesson, and I taught them Smoke on the Water. And then they started coming in regularly. And then, months later, all of a sudden, we're dating and,
So you're getting paid to teach your kid and you're dating her. That's like
no. Cause that was when we started, by the time we started dating, I think he was like, he lost interest in guitar.
Hey man, that thing that, people come into your life for a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. That's a good story, man.
Yeah. And the fact that happened the way it did in that small of a window. And now all of a sudden I have, we have our family together. And then of course my daughter, that's why with her being born though, it was like, my actual child, seeing her being born. I was there when she was born, and I was just, it was life altering. That would be the biggest life altering thing for me, just because when she was born, I mean, I literally, I talked to her when she was in her stomach and everything, and it wasn't the same as when she came out. All of a sudden I went, oh my God. I go, she looks just like me. I go, she's my kid. It was just like, wow. Everything immediately changed.
That's nice, man.
Other than that, I would say the other thing would be on the opposite end was my friend that I grew up with when he was killed in a car accident. Yeah. That was life altering. I mean, it was so dark for so long. The opposite end of the spectrum, which, changed life dramatically. But in the happy way, the big altering thing is, my daughter being born for sure.
It's nice, man. Thank you for sharing that, man. 2 questions, and I appreciate all your time. Toughest decision you've had to make?
Toughest decision would probably be moving from Tucson to California. It was one of the toughest decisions I made. And I knew I had to do it. the band I was with that I believed in, Robby Lochner, I believed we were going to do it. You know, the band was popular. It had great songs, amazing singer. You know, everything we had going for us wasn't going to happen anymore. And, you know, I was out of the band, and I knew that if I stayed in Tucson, I would rot. So I had to leave. And it was just, you know, coming from Tucson is like a, you know, small town mentality. And everybody I knew that had left, everybody came back. It seemed like, you know, they came back.
Oh, really?
With their legs. Oh, yeah. I knew a lot of musicians who came out and didn't last 6 months, maybe a year. And so it was a really scary thing. I mean, and everybody were, you know, a lot of people were behind me, and there was a lot of people you would hear the talk, oh, he'll be back. And I was like, you know, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. And I had a 76 Ford Torino station wagon, and I jam-packed it to the hill, left, and I never came back. I mean, I'd go back and visit, but I was like, not going back. Though there was times where, you know, when things were hard that I had thought about it. I go on the easy route. I could go back and teach guitar in Tucson, but I'll rot if I do that. I just can't do that. So that would be definitely the hardest decision, you know, hardest thing I've ever had to do. Other than that, it would be, you know, when I've had to, like with that drummer, when we had to fire him, something like that is always tough. It's like, how do you explain to somebody, and you know, somebody who's your friend, and it's, you know, it's just, that just sucks.
Yeah, that's tough.
And that kind of stuff is just needless. And really, I've learned that how needless these things are, you know, over the years, that it's just, it's just stupid. I mean, even with my first band, and it's funny because I was telling Jack the other day that, you know, about, you know, when he's had to fire people or whatever, I go, I've never had to do it. And then I start thinking back and go, you know, I have had to do it a few times. And one of my best friends growing up was playing bass for me as a kid, and I taught him how to play. I started him and taught him. And then he wasn't, there was other bands we were seeing, the bass players were better. And then when we got this singer in the band, he's like, we got to get a better bass player. And then, you know, they forced the issue. And so we ended up getting rid of him. And I was like, God, that was really super difficult. And it was really hard on our friendship for a number of years, but we're still, to this day, I mean, I've known the guy since first grade, but to this day, we're still good friends, and we talk all the time on the phone.
Oh, that's good. So there was nothing came between you guys, which is good.
No, it did for a few years until my friend Vic, the one that was passed away, when he died, because we were all three close friends. When he passed away, all of a sudden we went, wow, all this stuff is so petty. How stupid.
Yeah, we need to put this stuff aside. Yeah, good for you guys, man.
We did. But I mean, in hindsight, I look back and I go, this is stupid. We never had to get rid of you. I mean, just because you weren't as good as Joe Blow down the street, so what? It's all about chemistry. It's about, you know, the friendship. It's about, you know, so many other things than that. So, you know, it was just really, it was a hard lesson learned that you're going to do something like that to a friend that you were so close to because you're determined to make it, and this band's going to make it. And it's like, oh, you know, come on, the band didn't even make it anyhow.
Yeah, I hear you. You ought to feel good though. You've pretty much. That's a nice story that you had. You said I was leaving town and I wasn't coming back, and it worked, man.
Yeah,
that's a good story, man.
I was determined not to come back, and I mean, I was scared. I was scared going out. I mean, you move out to a new place, and nobody knew who I was. I was coming from a place where everybody knew. I was like a local celebrity, you know? And so now you're starting all over, and people are looking like, "Who are you? What have you done? What can you do for me?" You know, it was all that in LA. And it was tough. I mean, there's people I was playing. I played in a AC/DC tribute band briefly, and the singer would barely even freaking talk to me. You know, I was like, wow.
A singer of your own band?
Yeah. I mean, there was two guys in the band that were nice. The other guitar player, immediately I gravitated towards him because he was really friendly. And then I just looked for, you know, that, like, oh, this is cool. But the singer, you know, he was just like, kind of had an attitude. And then the drummer owned a studio, and I was bringing in songs that I had written and recorded with the band, and he was listening to them, and that guy wouldn't even listen to them. And well, you know, and then the funny thing was, a couple months later, I'm playing with Halford, right? Now the guy's calling me up and goes, I should have listened to your music. I was like, really, dude? Maybe you are good. I was like, we played in a band, and you didn't even listen to me play?
God.
You know, I mean, come on. Are you serious? Then we became friends for a while after that, but that was another one of these things. It was just so odd. The guy was a good singer, But then he would be like, okay, we start doing some cover stuff here and there together, and we wrote some songs together. But all of a sudden he would just, and this is strange, he would just delete my number. So I'd call him up and I go, hey man, what's going on? He goes, who is this? I go, what do you mean? He goes, who is this? And I was going, oh, and he goes, oh, I deleted your number. And he goes, I go, why? And it was like, oh, just, trying to clean out my friends. I'm like, wow.
Tough.
So
that makes no sense.
And it's me stupidly at that time, I was still trying to, you try and get, I guess maybe try and get approval. I don't know what it is. I was like, man, why are you doing that? We're friends, right? So we started becoming friends again, and we did some cover stuff together again and wrote some more songs together again. And then I called him up another time, and this time it was
right after. He's like, hello?
Yeah, same thing happened. This is right after my daughter was born, and I called him up, and he goes,
wow, that's horrible, man. You're
bitch.
calling up.
I went, wow. And I was like, then I think was different. And the thing was, my daughter was just born, and I didn't go to Arizona like I always did for Thanksgiving. And I was calling him up to invite him over to Thanksgiving. I thought, hey, maybe you're home alone. He's like, oh, well, okay. Well, that's cool of you to do, blah, 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 blah. And then I was just like, wow, really? Okay. When we hung up, I deleted his number. I go, I'm done.
Well, I hope he's listening to this show.
Yeah. He'll know who
Robbie deleted you, buddy.
Oh, I deleted. I was done. I'm like, I don't need this, man. This is going in the wrong direction. It's like, man, I want friends that are friends. And he seemed such a cool guy at times. And it was like, then all of a sudden to do that, it's like, what is this? What is this about? Wow. But it's not about me. It isn't about me. It's like it is if I keep trying to chase somebody down. No, you gotta be my friend. Forget that. I got plenty of friends.
You, man.
Yeah.
And last question, Robbie. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of that has been intentional and how much is just a natural part of aging?
I think I would have to say, how do I put it into words? It's kind of like, I think a lot of it is experience. So I don't know if I would say in aging. It's twofold. It's because of my daughter, how I feel about her and our life together has changed the way I feel about other things in the outside. So,
man, I hope you play this for her, because you said very, very touching things that I think she might not understand it now, but I think she listens to it in about 5 years. She'll be really humbled how much her dad cares about her.
Yeah, she's my life. Yeah. But I would say that, kind of, I don't want to say not caring, because it's not that I don't care, but it's kind of like caring without caring, and not like things that seem like they're a huge deal are and they're not at the same time, if that makes sense.
Well, you just don't sweat the small stuff, maybe.
Well, it's more that it's kind of like if I'm working on, a good example is I'm mixing, these songs, and I'm mixing Rock Me, which was a big hit. And I go, this is amazing. I go, I'm mixing this song that was, a hit. And this is big. And then I start going, well, it is, and it's not that big of a deal. It's both. It's both. It is a big deal. And I don't want it to not be a big deal in the fact that I don't want to take it for granted. So it's not that I'm taking it for granted, but I also realize that, in life that it's not, it's hard to put into words, but it's not that big of a deal.
No, it's not. I totally get it, man. It's not the impact of that is not going to change the world, or, you're going to do your best job and it's going to be great. And that's it. And next.
Yeah. And then just, keep moving forward and doing things, and it's great. And, I meet a lot of cool people. There's some acts that I, meet, and I like their, that's the thing, is like, I'll meet people, and sometimes I don't want to. If I really like an artist, sometimes I don't want to meet them, because if they're not cool,
be careful. What is it?
It'll ruin it for me, Yeah,
be careful when you meet your heroes or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be horrible. If I met Van Halen and he wasn't friendly, then I'd be like, God, I don't want to listen to Van Halen anymore. That's what would happen.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. So I typically don't really want to meet some people. But then sometimes like when I first met the guys in Kiss, it didn't matter how they were, because it was such a big ordeal for me. I'm talking to Gene Simmons and he knows who I am. Wow, this is amazing to me, But, that was many years. That was 20 years ago. Now he probably doesn't remember who I am, I'm sure. But, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's cool at the time, and it just, whatever. It's one of those things. It matters and it doesn't at the same time. I think that's what's really changed me the most in the last 10 years is realizing how much some stuff it matters. You don't take it for granted and you respect it, but it's not everything.
I totally get it. It's funny. I've interviewed a lot of my own heroes, and it's been really cool because some of these guys, like their DNA, their music is so deep in me. It's like part of me, as you know, when you listen to music, and then I find it so like, and everybody's been cool. Like I haven't had anybody who's been an asshole, but it's so cool to like now sit and chat with this person that has already impacted me. Whether I ever spoke to them or not, they've already made such a deep emotional impact on me.
Yeah, sure.
And I, what I like doing? I like to say thank you to these guys. That's the first thing I do. I say, man, I just want to thank you for everything you've given me over the years, because you don't know this, but I know it. And you've really moved me so often and so many times. And, and I don't know, there's something weird. Like I feel good about that, to be able to say that to somebody, because it's true, man. And, I think it's, I think playing music that you do is a gift, to the people receiving it. I think it's like, there's so many special properties, it brings people together. I don't need to tell you, but
it is, but it's also a gift in just being able to do it. I mean,
right.
Just like, to sit around and play like I do in my living room. I'll play in front of the TV or just play with the TV off or whatever it is. And it's a gift just to be able to play,
Yeah, it is.
And it's cool when you meet somebody like on the cruise, I met Brad Gillis, and he was the nicest, most, some people are really nice and they're cool and stuff, but there was something about talking with him that he was so genuine and so, it was just, it was much deeper than just being nice. I was like really blown away talking with him.
Yeah.
And I had he goes, why haven't I met you before? And I was going, well, I didn't want to tell him we kind of had met before briefly because we played with them 5 times. But the thing is, when we played, they were pretty separated. They came in and they left.
Yeah.
So we never got to sit and talk, but we'd be like, hi, maybe wave at him or he would see me or whatever. But he didn't really put it all together. But this time we were watching Sebastian Bach play, and he came backstage, and Jack and I were back there, and Brad came back, and then we just started talking, and I was just like really blown away by, there was just something talking to him. It was more than just, he's nice. He was really like genuinely like just really heartfelt. It was hard to put into words, but I was really, it made a huge impression on me. And not to mention their show is second to none. Those guys, if you haven't seen Night Ranger live,
they're coming down here, I think, soon. I interviewed Kelly. I don't know if you had a chance to meet Kelly Kagi.
We've talked it through email, and just recently we talked again through email.
He's the same way. He's a very, very nice guy. Yeah, very.
Seems like what a great show. I mean, if you haven't seen them live before, anybody who hasn't seen them, I'll tell you what, go see those guys. I kid you not. There is nothing like them. They are so good. It's just, I love it. When we played with them, every time we play with them, I'll go out and I watch their whole show.
That's cool, man.
And then now we're on the boat with them, and they played 3 times. I could only catch, because of the scheduling, I could catch 2 of the shows, but I caught 2 of the shows.
Very
and
cool.
then we're just like, oh man, this is amazing. They were so good. I couldn't even believe, to me, that they'd gotten better since, they made the guitar switch with Carrie playing guitar now, because they were great before, but there's just a synergy with them now that it's just, you can't really put into words, but there's a friendship. There's something there, when the guys really like each other, and you could tell. For me, when I watch a band, I could tell when there's tension. There was tension before. The band was really good. Maybe tension is sometimes, but I see tension with bands. I've played enough to know, I'll watch and go, oh, these 2 guys don't like each other, or whatever it may be. There's a problem here. Somebody's got something. They were so good. The performance was so good, and it was so like, God, they really like each other, and it's so fun.
That's cool, man.
I don't know if you've seen those guys, but if you
I have not. They're coming down here soon. In fact, they're coming down here with Jimmy Leahy. Who's he with Styx? You know who I'm talking about?
Dennis DeYoung?
Dennis DeYoung, yeah, he's coming down because I know Jimmy from that band too. So I'm going to go. I think they're both playing together, so I'm probably going to go to that show. I'll see all these guys. So
yeah, you'll really enjoy Night Ranger. I mean, they are so good. I kid you not. It's. I'll watch them. If we were on tour with them for 30 days in a row, I'd watch them every day if I could.
That's a pretty big endorsement, man.
They're that good. There was one other band that was like that one time I was touring when I was with Dig Jelly, and we were touring with Veruca Salt and the Love Makers. And the Love Makers are out of Northern California, and they're kind of like a disco sounding band. And it took me a minute to get it because it was like, what? But then when I started watching them, I really started appreciating the show and the performance. And they weren't great musicians. The guitar player's like, I don't even know. I put my hands here and this works. He didn't know anything about guitar. But the show, the performance, the songs, everything about it was so good that, we did 30 dates with them in like 35 days. And I watched every one of them after about the first one. I watched a little bit of it. The next time I watched a little more, and then I was like, wow, this is really good. And then every night I would go out and I would watch the whole show. I was like, wow, I was just engaged.
Very cool, man.
It's unfortunate that they broke up. It was different, but it's kind of like that with Night Ranger, but then you've got the actual serious musicianship, and, those guys can play. They can play their guitars.
Oh, yeah. Hey, man, I can't thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate it. Let me tell people where to find you and a couple of things you got going on. First of all, it's Robby Lochner, Lochner. And he's got a Facebook artist page, Robby Lochner. What is it called? Just Robby Lochner artist page, or?
Just Robby Lochner, Robby, and then Lochner. Yeah, just Robby Lochner, the artist page, sure.
Awesome. And now you're currently mixing the Once Bitten acoustic record, right?
Yes.
And Jack Russell's Great Zeppelin 2, you're mixing that.
Well, I haven't started mixing that because I'm trying to finish up the mixes on this one first. Yeah. As soon as I do, then I got to sift through all these live tracks and pick out the best performances from the different nights and put it out. It's a whole cha-cha, but that's next.
That's cool. You want to talk about any of those?
Yeah. I mean, they'll hopefully be coming out really soon, I hope. And they sound good. The acoustic record it's really good. There's some great vocal performances. There's some cool guitar stuff on there, and band plays pretty well. I mean, it's acoustic. So, I mean, if we were to do it electrically, I think that would be, wouldn't make any sense. For me, I don't think you go and try and recreate something that was done before. You do something different. And the Zeppelin thing should be really cool too. I mean, that should be good. And then we have a new record. Hopefully it will come out later this year with brand new songs and the whole bit.
Very cool. Did you guys ever come to the East Coast?
Not often. We do, but not often.
Yeah, I don't think so. Especially Florida, I know is a tough place to get into for bands for some reason.
Florida?
Yeah, a lot of bands pass here. Once in a blue moon they'll come.
We actually play Florida quite a bit, but when you're talking about Jersey, New York, that area, it doesn't happen often. We were just in Florida.
Really? Where were you? Were you in Tampa?
We were in Clearwater.
Okay, yeah, at Ruth Eckerd.
Who?
Ruth Eckerd Hall. Where did you play in Clearwater?
Oh no, we played a biker thing. It was outdoors.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
put up.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that wasn't too long ago then, because that was like last month. Yeah, right. Okay, and wait a minute.
February 10th. It was February 10th.
Those guys were there. Some of the guys we talked about were there. Was John Winger was there, right?
Winger was there the night before us.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, because I saw some of those guys coming. I had heard they were coming to town. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to see them. I was hoping to get in time to go watch them play. I mean, I love John Robb.
He's a great guy. Yeah, really nice guy. Great player. Well, dude, next time you come down here, give me a heads up. I'd love to come out and see you play.
Cool, for sure. Yeah.
Man, thank you for your time. I really appreciate everything. Really happy the way things are going for you, man. And it's really nice the way you talked about your daughter. That was very moving. So I appreciate everything.
All right.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend on your social channels. We appreciate it. I want to say thanks again to Robby Lochner for spending time with us. I really appreciate that. And support Robby and what he's doing with Jack Russell's Great White. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.